Thank you for joining us for this meeting of the Belterra Board of Directors Town Hall Meeting Hybrid. I'm Bob Letty, Vice President and Treasurer of the Board, and I'll be serving as presiding officer for tonight's meeting. Given that the board meeting portion of tonight is in addition to our normal quarterly schedule, the agenda is abridged. In addition, given that we will be moved directly into the town hall portion immediately following the board meeting, we're going to forego the typical resident forum. All attendees will remain in listen-only mode at this time as we will call the meeting to order. Belterra board members present today include myself, Director Fred Sanchez, Secretary Patricia Madden, Director Tugel Sabran, Director Pete Ogden, Director Howard Ballard. Absent is President Pat Williams. Due to the presence of the quorum, may I have a motion to call this meeting to order at 6:31 p.m.
So moved.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
It's a top. Fred and Howard. Any discussion? All right. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Motion carries unanimously. All right. First agenda item is going to be approval of the prior meeting minutes. May I have a motion to approve the meeting of the minutes of the regular meeting of the board held on January 25th, 2024 as presented in our board packet?
So moved.
Thank you, Patricia. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Howard, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, again, motion carries unanimously. On to old business. Ratification of actions taken between meetings. In this case, we took no action between meetings, so there's nothing to ratify. Which moves us on to new business. Item number one is the pool and splash pad resurfacing. We all had a chance to go through the documents that were provided. Excellent. At this point, I would entertain a motion for the pool and splash pad resurfacing.
So moved. For what? Never mind.
We've been presented with several options.
I know, I was thinking of a conversation that we had about one of the options in my mind.
So there's three options.
Yeah.
Progressive provided two bids for a tough coat option. The big variable was the splash pad. Tough coat is what is kind of there now-ish. Actually, it's a better product. Wouldn't chip off as quickly, but there has been some interest, especially from the resident survey, of people stating that the current surface is unsafe. There's boulders there as well. Children can slip, fall, hurt themselves. So Progressive also provided an option for what's called life floor. And I've got a little feature here to show you guys.
And it looks nice.
Hold on a second here.
I've had some experience with the life floor.
You have?
Yeah,
It
it's
is,
a very good product.
apparently you can drop an egg from 8 feet and it will bounce on this material. Right, and it's laughing over there. Who's gonna drop an egg? I'm not sure. Right, yeah, that's good, right? It is, this company on their website, they put this material and there's, in place like Greatwood Lodge uses it. They've got on, cruise ships, and it looks really nice. It comes in a myriad of colors. You can get super creative with the patterns, just depending on how much money you want to spend. We could even put the Belterra logo on this thing. But I would suggest if you choose this option to pick colors from their stock, otherwise you're looking at a 12-week lead time on that. So it provides traction, cushioning, protection, and falls. And as with anything though in life, there is a dollar amount associated with that. So the amount reserved is currently $72,500 in the earmark in the reserve account for this project, both the pool and the splash pad. This would be admittedly more, but it's a good option to go with. And apparently Progressive is the only licensed installer of this, so we couldn't go get a competitive bid for it, unfortunately, for this material.
The driving force is not only is it decorative, but it's also a safety issue.
Right.
Much safer.
And there has been some question about as part of this process, going ahead and doing away with the boulders that are there. They're kind of decorative. Yeah, she's making a face. That makes sense, right? Big old rocks in the middle of, that we could pull those out. I had a quick conversation with him a few hours before this meeting. He said, yes. The short answer is yes, there is more cost with that. And he didn't want to quote a cost because he needs to get, find out how much labor it's going to be, want to take another look at it. I would venture to guess we're looking at somewhere between $2,500 and $5,000 extra. It's got to rent special equipment, but the net effect is getting rid of those boulders and just a nice, smooth, bouncy surface.
So while the cost is significantly more for the life floor, more than what was allocated in the reserve study, we could offset some of that out of the capital improvement fund.
Correct.
I was just gonna ask that.
Yeah. Yes, you can do that. You can fund the delta from capital improvement for sure.
Last longer?
Yes, it will last longer. We typically reserve we do that kind of top coat option every 3 to 5 years. And they said the life expectancy on this is 7 to 9.
So I understand the flooring with progressive light floor is much safer, but the flooring with Lone Star Innovative, that one, is that just kind of like a redo of the same thing?
Correct, yes.
Then what's top coat?
So all the different vendors, they all either have a preferred product they like to use, or in the case of Lone Star / Innovative, they have a proprietary product. So if you recall, the products that were spec'd in the RFP were specific products that are manufactured in Phoenix, Arizona. There's a company out there that manufactures them and does the work. And so very similarly, Lone Star is the company, Innovative Solutions for Surfaces is the company that manufactures the product. So they just all kind of, like painters, they prefer to use Sherwin-Williams or DPG or whatever the case may be. But it's all comparable in quality. So Innovative is the brand, basically. It would be the same as Progressive using Top Coat.
So I move that we approve $96,721.38 for Progressive Commercial Aquatics to begin work on resurfacing the pool. And we delay decision on the splash pad while requesting a formal proposal for what the life floor implementation may look like. Since that's going to be a different layout and will not be like for like.
Good. Any second?
Delay it. Delay.
Delay the splash pad, but we could get going on the pool resurfacing as soon as we, if the motion passes tonight, March, we can get going on the pool resurfacing, correct?
Correct, yeah, the pool, he said that he could mobilize within a week, and it would be working days, so weather dependent, obviously, no weekends. But if we went with the life floor option, the installation is a little bit longer on that. But we could get going on.
We're in a kind of time constraint on this one with it.
It's tight, but that's part of why we added this special portion to this. What this was normally just going to be a town hall meeting, but we have these actionable items that I want to get done this spring before we hit swim season, so.
And they said they could use that.
Mhm.
Basically, if we push this item off until our next scheduled meeting, we won't make swim season.
Yeah, and I'll start like 10 days or 5 days or however long.
Just long enough.
Yeah.
Right, I'll second the motion.
All right, I have a second. Any further discussion?
So Pete, you're suggesting we go progressive on the light floor or top coat for the pool?
Just the pool as it exists today with the standard coating that exists today. So I think that's possible.
Yeah, the life floor is only being.
So when we have the top coat now?
That is correct.
Equivalent to, yes, standard.
The life floor has only been proposed for the splash pad. Any one of the three companies we go for, the pool will just be the existing.
I see.
Product.
Yeah, that would be an extra, that would work around the pool. So to
We
be,
don't want them.
well, I think I just want to be clear, you want to find out the additional you're talking about like design stuff or the additional cost for the boulders?
What is,
Yeah.
what is it gonna look like? If you look at the brochure about the light floor, there are various inlays, there's tiling options, right? Do we want something that replicates natural and is a beige and looks as much like it looks today, but is textured and soft? Or you mentioned logo, like,
Mhm.
we should just be purposeful about picking that. And like the, wants and know the amount and make a decision
Gotcha.
for that.
Perfect. All right, just want to make sure my marching orders are.
Any further discussion? All right, so we have a motion on the table to move forward with progressive and resurfacing the pool, and we're tabling the splash pad for further information. All those in favor say aye.
Hi.
All opposed say nay. Any abstentions? Motion carries unanimously.
I will circle with him and get an email out to you guys as soon as I get that, so we can make a decision. Hopefully next week.
Thank you.
Mhm.
All right, moving on to wood staining and painting. Again, all the information was emailed to us last week. I would entertain a motion at this time. Anybody at all?
Yeah, all three are very reputable companies in our industry and beyond. They do work past, I'm sure you've probably heard of them, at least Sure Pro and Empire Works. Given the cost, I think Empire Works, when judging by when they came out to do the sidewalk, I felt like they were very, very detailed. They pointed out some things that we needed to clarify with the other vendors that were there, which is the purpose of the sidewalk, obviously. And their price came in the cheapest.
Say that again?
Empire Works,
Okay, sorry.
that's okay. They
I
were,
heard certain problems, sorry.
yeah, Empire Works was, yeah, very, very detailed. I've worked with all of them, so they all do great work. You can't really go wrong with them.
Significantly underneath the reserve study application as well.
Mhm.
Just over $9,000 over your budget.
And maybe we can move forward to that fireworks.
Was that a motion?
Yeah, so be it. I think that we, go ahead, fireworks.
I'll accept that. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, thank you, Pete. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Hi.
Any opposed say nay. Any abstentions? All right, good, motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Maybe a very happy community in the first. Please run it. All right.
All right, and the last of our new business items for tonight is the janitorial services contract.
This one made me fall out of my chair a little bit. Getting those proposals from Swell and G&M Services. I will say, comparing them, looking at what they offer, they can all clean. Like, that's not up for debate.
No pun intended.
Swell and G&M seem to have a little more of a more comprehensive reporting procedures, with, branded reports and whatnot. I'm not entirely certain that delta is worth that. And if you guys recall, you guys asked for a proposal on going out to bid, because we did have a little issue last year. We did bump up the schedule of services during the summer to 7 days a week during the summer. That seemed to help matters. So that's what we included in the RFP, to just include that rather than having the one-off. Janet King, even with the consumables being billed separately, which they all do that's standard practice. The consumables, I went and pulled the invoices, and it kind of averages about $350 a month, give or take. So even with that, we would still come in under that overall janitorial budget. But I do want to specify that I did budget in 2024 as part of the janitorial contract to have the additional service, not part of the janitorial contract though, of cleaning the exterior of the windows twice. So that was budgeted at $600 a pop. So even with that additional service, the consumables, if you chose Janet King, we would still come in in line with budget for 2024 for janitorial services.
And so do you feel like with the RFP, with the more detailed scope of work, that we're aligned, that they know that this isn't a continuation, this is a escalation and higher quality expectation than?
Correct, and I did note, when going through the proposals, Janet King, not only did they include the additional language we had specified in the scope of work in the RFP, but she bolded it in her details so that I could see that for sure we've added and we're acknowledging that this is extra service. And then,
Commitment,
yeah.
if any?
Mhm.
What is the commitment, if any? So we say we're doing Jana King, we're gonna give them a chance to follow the new elevated standard. And if we decide after a month we hate them,
How do we get out of it?
30-day out.
okay?
Yeah.
So I move we approve the contract with Jana King as presented.
Thank you, Pete. Any second?
Second.
Thank you, Patricia. Any discussion?
One quick one, Janet King, are they Austin based?
They are a national corporation, actually, they've taught themselves an international corporation, but they franchise out their locations.
Oh, they can focus.
So when I'm dealing with Jana King, there's the franchise owner that I deal with in the day-to-day operations, but when it came to this, I went to their corporate regional person. So if there are any issues with their franchisee, I can go to the corporate and.
Gotcha, so any emergencies or anything like that, we can get to them pretty quick and they will get here.
That is one thing, even though last year we did have some things where we had to remind them about some things, I will say her emergency response time is amazing. When we had the vandalism in the men's restroom, that was Friday night at 10:30, I called her and they got it cleaned up within a couple of hours.
This past week?
No, that's several months ago. It was before you got on board.
Okay.
Yeah.
You feel y'all had a good relationship with them?
I do. I think this was an excellent exercise at the very least, that they were surprised that we were going out to bid. Kind of let them know that, there's been a few things we've had to remind you about. That also if we feel like over the next few months, if things are not, if we're back to the same kind of place where we were last year, that we've got some numbers that we can consider when working on the 2025 budget at the very least. I hope it doesn't get to that because obviously, right, $106,000.
Well, why is there such a big difference?
One of the companies that I asked to bid, they replied back and said, basically, you're too small for us to mobilize. So I think that maybe what's hurting us is to mobilize a crew out here that, we're basically paying for a crew that would be servicing a much bigger facility. So you're having to bear that cost.
Like an office building or something?
Mhm. So if we were to do this exercise again, I definitely would probably try to, and it's hard because we need a reputable company that's, properly licensed and insured and all of that. But, this is just a big house, essentially that needs to be cleaned. So there may be an opportunity for some small organizations.
Any further discussion? All right. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, again, motion carries unanimously. And now, thank you. There being no further business to consider, may I have a motion to adjourn the meeting at 6:49 PM?
I'm moving to adjourn.
Thank you, Howard. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Patricia and Tugel. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, motion carries unanimously, shortest board meeting in history. All right, we'll now move on to moment.
No, okay.
Good, all right.
Go.
We will now move into the town hall meeting portion of the evening. The board has any topics on which we're specifically seeking feedback. However, you're welcome to bring up any topic you wish to discuss. And for those of you who are not able to attend this evening, management provided a link to submit feedback ahead of time. That feedback has been provided to the board. I personally read that spreadsheet. Do we have the ability to put that up?
Sure, yeah.
All right. So the first topic of discussion is going to be lifeguard staff. Belterra currently staffs lifeguards at the pool on a part-time basis, meaning that the pool is not guarded during all open hours. We've historically guarded the pool during high usage times. However, given the ever rising cost and a strong community desire to improve the amenities, the board is seeking feedback from the community regarding how to move forward with the 2024 summer swim season. The 2024 budgeted amount for lifeguards is $89,010, which is expected to cover a schedule in keeping with the 2023 summer. Looking ahead, to keep the lifeguards on the current schedule and plan and to continue to contribute to community enhancement, the assessment rate would need to be increased by approximately 5% in 2025. We'll now open the floor to any residents who would like to speak on this topic.
When we first moved here, when we were still under the builder's auspice and we didn't have, the HOA didn't have any say, we were told that it was because the builders wanted to protect their liability, why we had to have lifeguards at certain times, even though other developments around us, like High Point, has swim at your own risk. I really think we should consider this, maybe with a caveat of if you're bringing, more than 2 unrelated family members or children that would qualify as a pool party, then you have to hire your own lifeguards. Because I don't want to see, a ton of kids that are unsupervised, but at the same time, I think the lifeguards have been serving as babysitters for a long time. They've also been asked to do a lot of other tasks that are above and beyond lifeguards, as far as I'm concerned, with cleaning up and keeping up that we should be paying other people to do. So I'm all in for swim at your own risk all the time and extending the hours that the pool is open because we don't have the expense of paying the lifeguards. So that's what I have to say on that matter, but I'll be back.
Who else? Come on up.
89,000 is a lot of money. And I think that no matter what we do, we need to consider cutting back the hours at least on the lifeguarding because it is such a huge amount of money. And perhaps we look at doing just a few hours during the warmest part of the day on weekdays and then longer hours on weekends perhaps, but take a big chunk of that money back because it's just too much on lifeguards. That's it.
Yep.
You can speak.
Sorry.
I was just gonna say, my husband and I barely ever go to the pool, but our daughter has 3 young kids and she uses it a fair amount. And, I think that if you're gonna cut back on lifeguard time, should not be during the day, especially during the summertime and the weekends. So daytimes with young kids, I think it's important to have lifeguards there. She's got 3 kids, and there's a lot of families in the neighborhood who do have, a number of kids. So keeping your eye on all those kids when they're in 2 different pools or whatever, I think it's gotta be really challenging and kind of scary. So I urge you to keep the lifeguards at least during daytime hours when families with young kids are likely to be here.
I wondered if High Point has 2 pools and are there other developments? I mean, does Ledgestone, no, there's a development across the street. Are there other developments that have pools that swim at their own risk? I just wondered whether.
So the research that we've been doing, and Marcia, correct me if I'm wrong, is that we are the only pool in the area that has lifeguards.
And what other pools are there?
Every other community that we've reached out to, Circle C, High Point, Ledgestone, Belterra, Headwaters, nobody has lifeguards. I believe the closest HOA pool that we found that actually employs lifeguards was Steiner Ranch.
Yes.
Steiner Ranch out in Lakewood.
They have 2 pools, do you know?
It's better than this one. There's 1 or 2 pools.
It's quite a bit more.
And as like High Point has 2 pools and.
There, one, I think there was.
High Point only has 1.
Thank you.
Yeah,
The point is too.
Yeah.
I believe they have a lap pool and a recreation pool, like,
Yeah.
correct?
What we're seeing in the industry, because my company, we work with a lot of developers, when, you know, communities are coming out of the ground, in essence, is developers are shying away from starting it out, and to a degree, we are, as you know, part of our company, our name is consultants, because we consult on new communities as well, is to advise them, don't even start it, because we have documented cases where, you know, 5 lifeguards were on duty and a child still drowned, because it is seconds and it's silent. It is not what's on TV, the flashing around. That's not to say it's a reason to not do it, but don't start it, because once you start it, then, you know, boards like this have to go through a process to consider, you know, eliminating it. So the trend right now in newer communities is to not even start it.
If I could add, I think it gives a false sense of security to some of the parents, because they think, oh, somebody else is watching out for my kid, I don't have.
There are some other side effects that are going on with the lifeguarding. Our current model of having partially swim year on risk and partially lifeguarding is not looked upon favorably by our insurance company.
Correct. Our current insurance carrier is, and it's the hybrid model that they are not in favor of. So hybrid is even, yes, we don't have lifeguards right now because nobody's swimming, but hybrid is even, we don't have lifeguards come until noon, but the pool's open at 5 a.m. They consider that a hybrid approach. There are insurance carriers out there that have no preference. They don't carry. It just happens that we are with a carrier that, if we choose to continue with the hybrid model, we will need to notify our insurance carrier, and we will likely have to find another carrier. So they're fine with eliminating it. I was surprised, because I thought for sure a premium would go up if you're eliminating it. They said, no. And the reason there is, to her point, that, you know, at least this is the way it was explained to me by the broker, is they look at it as people aren't 100% sure, is there a lifeguard or is there not a lifeguard right now? At least if it's posted, this is swim at your own risk all the time, you know, and there's no question.
One thought occurs to me, this may create a controversy for you.
Everything does.
So that kind of middle, I don't approve of the hybrid either. You gotta do one way or the other. But to help with people who become very anxious that now they're in charge of their kids, to do a whole bunch of public education about what this means and what the responsibilities are, as well as if you can find local people, like, what's the swim school? Or the kids go?
Inlet or line thing.
You know, perhaps they would be interested in doing a big push to, because, you know, we're thrilled that our 3-year-old grandkids are all taking lessons and now can swim, at least with the full line float on my back. So I'm feeling a little bit better about them not having a lifeguard and having a mom who's trying to split between all of them. Thanks.
Any of the board members wish to speak on this?
How often do we have on Twitter about kids? The pool area.
So we're not supposed to have anybody under 14,
13.
13 without parents present.
Well, does it happen? Like,
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, all the time.
I would think that to this point, who controls
Right now, theoretically, the lifeguards, well, not right now, because the pool's closed, but the lifeguards.
that? Without a lifeguard, you can't control
Yeah.
it. Without a lifeguard or somebody in here, what is going to keep kids from running on the deck and pushing each other, horseplay and all that?
Their parents, hopefully.
But if they're 14 or 15 or 16, they don't have.
But the lifeguards aren't carding the kids right now, and there's a bunch of kids that are showing up without parents because their parent allowed them to go to the pool. And just expect that since there's a lifeguard there, somebody will watch out.
yeah, do lifeguards even kick that out if they're
No.
not parents?
No,
They don't.
I don't see them ever kicking out a kid.
no,
Is that something you want to put on a 16-year-old lifeguard?
exactly.
That is a lot to ask.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I'm an experienced lifeguard.
Volunteer.
Many years. One screen is something. No, I'm on vacation. It's difficult if you don't have somebody that manages the pool. And calls the life. You know, part of their job is, the biggest part of their job is safety, not only in the water, but around the pool. And I don't know if our dogs do that, but checking restrooms, trash, whatever it might be, that's expected of a lifeguard, in my opinion. And if you had a manager that did all that, you wouldn't have a lot of issues that we have now, but that hasn't been the case, so.
And we would need to have somebody that checked the restroom and checked the trash and.
The lifeguard is supposed to do that,
I know, but if we got rid of the lifeguards, we need.
then you're
have
gonna have to
somebody-
have somebody do it.
We have to have somebody do that and check the chlorine levels and that, but we don't have to be paying somebody the entire time the pool is open.
So the current lifeguard contract, they were not checking chemicals, correct?
They do check them, they do, but they check them with a standard, kit
Well,
that
there's
you
another-
use at home. It's not the professional kit, but during the summer, the Progressive Commercial Aquatics is here every day.
So they come in and they test the water, that's fine. They skim the pool for leaves and trash and glass.
But they are here typically only once a day, so, yeah, the lifeguards, if they see something in the water, the expectation is that they're going to, go fish it out, clean it out. There is an option, some companies offer a monitoring service. The per hour charge is typically less. They are not lifeguards, they are not licensed, that is not the expectation. They're simply there to try to keep the shenanigans at a minimum, empty the trash or check the bathrooms. So they're literally monitoring the pool, rather than providing lifeguarding. The downside to that is moving from lifeguards to monitors. To this gentleman's point, making sure that communication about what the expectation is. We've reduced it, but there is still someone there. There will be someone who assumes that they are lifeguards, probably.
And what would the insurance company have to say versus monitors versus lifeguards?
That would be, if it's not if they are not trained and, properly credentialed lifeguards, then it's considered no lifeguards. It's swim at your own risk still.
Is there any, consequence? I mean, it doesn't sound like there has been, and so one of the issues is gonna be a big culture shift for families, parents, and kids. And that's gonna be another stressful, painful process where some parents just say, tough, yeah, this is, it's gonna be. Are there consequences if there's kids, if there was a monitor there, who could, call out somebody on a certain number of times? Okay, you've lost your privileges for a week, or something like that.
So what the monitors would typically do is they would take their information, they would report it to management, and we would follow up with our enforcement process. I wouldn't expect a monitor to be in a confrontational situation. Now, I have managed communities where they employ guards, literal, they're not armed, but, they're wearing a security, maybe a polo with a security logo on it, so they have a little more clout, if you will. But by and large, the traditional pool monitor you see are gonna be that 16, 17-year-old high school student, that we wouldn't want them to be that confronted, but they would take their information and we would follow up with it. But that's no different than now, the lifeguard, would report some sort of infraction.
What's the exact financial outcome of us just abolishing the lifeguard duty? Are we going to decrease the?
$89,000.
Sure, but are we gonna decrease the installments like the HOA dues, or are we gonna put that in reserves? What is that?
What we approved in the budget was we took the minimal increase and put no additional funding into capital improvements. Because we didn't want to bump it up with the expectation that any action taken here would free up money to then go into the capital improvement fund. So we would not lower dues, we would keep funding, but if we decide to maintain lifeguards, then you would have to have an increase next year, because not funding capital improvements is gonna be a problem.
If we were to choose to abolish the lifeguards, we would not be operating in a deficit. if we kept the lifeguards going without increasing dues, we would be operating in a deficit again.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but haven't you guys had a hard time historically finding enough lifeguards that were certified and willing to work and were available at the hours?
It's true, yeah.
They did a couple of years ago. The new company last year didn't have quite as, just in full transparency, they didn't have quite the issue that I heard that Belterra has had in the past. And the owner of the lifeguard company we used last year has already contacted me saying she's getting applications from kids who want to work here again. So I think there will be a pool of them this year. So I'm not sure, but it has been an issue in the past. You are right.
Without a price, a rate increase, because you know what, they can make it Chick-fil-A.
Well, yeah, that's true. And all they have to do is hand somebody a chicken sandwich to say not bad.
Yeah.
Let's have you come to the podium, Steve, so anybody online can hear you also, please.
Yeah, because there's a microphone at the podium.
If you were to go the monitor route, would you hire them in-house or would you go through an outside vendor?
An outside vendor,
Because
shift of liability.
typically, like the lifeguards, they're doubling the hourly fee when you go through a vendor. So for instance, if you were to hire them in-house, you'd save half that money right there. But then of course, that
Here's the
requires
issue.
somebody to manage that.
Right, and if we bring in in-house lifeguard, when someone calls in sick, the lifeguard company has to send someone to cover that shift. Somebody calls in sick, if they're employed through CCNC, which all the staff here is employed through CCNC, someone has to cover that, and I promise you, you don't see me in a bikini. No, I'm being funny, but at the same time, like, someone has to still cover
On the
that
other
shift.
side, I'm trying to say that, actually years ago, when I was doing this for a recreation park district, we faced all these same challenges and we back up standard coverage for lifeguards because inevitably somebody does call in sick. I'm not saying that we should do that. It is an option. However, the monitor route would be even cheaper and that would keep the pool in order. It's a question of how much authority you give that monitor and then how well that's enforced by you people down the road if there is a major infraction. So those are all things to consider, but that's such a huge amount of money for lifeguards that something needs to be done to reduce that. I'll leave it at that.
So I've got a couple thoughts on this. And I'm gonna preface this with, these are my thoughts. These are no way a reflection of what the rest of the board feels. This is Bob here. Yeah, I see this as dealing with two very separate issues when it comes to this lifeguard discussion. Number one is speaking to the disciplinary nature of the lifeguards, the being able to stop running, stop bad behavior at the pool. That's a really big problem for this community because, honestly, because of this community. You cannot expect a 16-year-old or a 17-year-old kid to discipline somebody when their parent comes in and yells at the lifeguard for disciplining the kid, which happens a lot here. I'm sorry, I'll be the one to say it. Our own residents, our own neighborhood is horrible to our vendors, and the lifeguards are no different. It's a very big ask to be asking a 16 and a 17-year-old to be potentially getting into a confrontation with a kid's parent because they're trying to enforce the rules of the pool that we've set for them, and the parents don't like that. Flame me all you want for that opinion, but that's my opinion. Like I said, not the board's. Secondly, speaking to the lifeguardiness nature of the lifeguards. And this is a controversial opinion as well. I've been a paramedic for 29 years. I spent 26 years working in the field on an ambulance. In that time, I ran a number of drownings, a number of pediatric drownings. And I can count on one hand, missing a couple of fingers, the amount of times a teenage lifeguard actually pulled a child out of a pool. Every time that a bystander made a rescue, in my anecdotal experience, it was by an adult, or if it was with a teenage lifeguard, it was at something like a City of Austin pool that has a robust lifeguarding division of the city management that provides continuous training. And when I say continuous, I mean weekly training to the teenage lifeguards, and there is always an adult manager on site. My personal opinion is that the amount of money that we as an HOA are spending on the lifeguards does not warrant the service that we're getting from.
I don't disagree with you, Bob, but, were you done?
Oh, yeah, no, but
My concern is, and I do think that lifeguards can provide a false sense of security, especially, 15 or 16-year-olds. Nothing against them, and, I'm sure they're trained and everything. And it is a lot of money. I think the cost is secondary to the safety. But, I mean, how much more safety are we getting from the lifeguards? Probably one of my biggest concerns, though, is the expectations of the community. And right now, the expectation is that we have lifeguards, and yes, we have the ability to change that, but, as has been said here already, communication is key. And I don't know how else to communicate to the community to get the word out, because there are so many issues, very important issues, where, a fraction of the community, this is a town hall, we have 2,000 homes, and we have 10 people here tonight. So, okay, so.
Less than.
But my point is if, we do decide to forgo having lifeguards on the go-forward basis, that there's gonna be people inevitably who are not gonna know about that. They're just gonna assume.
Okay, all you have to do is deactivate everybody's key fobs.
Yeah.
And have them re-sign a statement with big letters saying it's all swim at your own risk. And then, since their key fob has been disabled, if they've
A
got.
waiver of liability. Yeah.
Exactly, if they've gotten into the pool without using their key fob, that's their own problem.
So that's what I was about to say. Thank you for saying that, because if the board chooses to do that, I'm almost certain legal counsel would insist
100%.
on that. And if from a management perspective, I have absolutely no problem coming down here on a Saturday and staffing it to where we have an iPad at the gate and saying, no problem, we'll reactivate it, just sign here. So we don't impede. There's a myriad of ways that we can make this as easy as possible on folks.
I think we have to do that.
Yes, absolutely. And we would start a comprehensive communication plan. We could maybe even get it into the third quarter statement mailings too. A notice in there. There's lots of ways we can do that.
A lot of
People don't read. People don't read.
we can leave close to water.
I know,
But that's, yeah, to Julie's point, like cut off the bob and make them sign.
and if you tell people that our dues would go up if we have lifeguards, I think that's pretty powerful. Also, that all of those, nobody else has lifeguards, and Steiner Ranch is pretty wealthy, right? They don't have lifeguards.
They do have lifeguards.
But yeah.
Steiner Ridge does.
Oh, they do.
They do.
That's
They
an
do.
expectation.
But they're bougie. They both.
They use it all. They use it.
They used to, yeah. Yeah, I knew the company that supplied.
So the same thing is, are you currently managing the fobs independently by amenity? Such that you deactivate access to the pool, but not the gym and the splash pad, or is it managed at least in the block?
We have the ability to every door.
Not pick and choose.
Yeah, we do now because,
But can they circumvent, can they just enter the gym? Through the gym, enter the pool area?
no, you cannot get into the pool without badging in right there.
You get into the pool if somebody else lets you in, and problem is we can go down all the what if scenarios all we want, all day long. There's always gonna be people that break the rules. And at the end of the day, there's only so much we can do about that. Those same people, we can have the lifeguards on right now, and those same people can go into the pool at midnight and throw beer bottles into the bottom of the pool, which just seems to happen every couple of years.
Well, and part of this too is the board several months ago made a change to the hours for the gym, but I need to update all the signage, and I want to update the pool signage as well. So there's there will be a lot of thought and detail put into the signs at the pool, and, big, bold, this is also a your own risk. So even if somebody does let them in, if you miss that sign, it's your own fault.
You mentioned some of the communities that have moved or were always swim at your own risk. How do they address the concern of what goes on? I don't have a lot of experience with those other pools. Do any of you have any commentary on how they do that?
So at the pools that I managed that, or at least I managed that had pools that didn't have lifeguards, it's typically just the janitorial that goes in there and, you know, cleans it out, and empties the trash, and if trash does get, you know, filled up in the course of the day, then, you know, we would go dump the trash if we actually have to, you know, of course. But it's not been necessarily a significant issue of, you know, having to have the lifeguard there. It's been fine.
Any other comments?
I think we're gonna have some pushback with that. I think we're pretty fortunate that we have a massive swim team. You got a lot of kids that can swim. And their parents would probably feel comfortable with that. But you're also gonna have some pushback from young people with young kids, and they're just anxious, and they should be.
Sure.
But that may be a trigger for them to, hey, my kid needs to learn how to swim, or I need to be in the water with them. So, which they're not now, I'm assuming. What about if, the high time hours? Is there, have we studied that? Have we looked at that, when the peak hours in the pool?
Peak hours of the pool are definitely, like Friday afternoons and, you know, kind of in that 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. timeframe on a Saturday are definitely the high times.
We still have the insurance concern.
Can we have a referendum? Can we ask the people, hey, are you getting $45 worth service every year from having lifeguards? Can we do that?
Well, I would think most people would say no, because they don't go.
The comments that came back from the, you know, if you can't come to voice your, you know, provide your feedback, we're pretty split on, some people are saying there's, you know, 5% increase in HOA dues is a small price to pay for, the potential loss of a child, life of a child. Talking about vandals, misbehavior, somebody says they're very in favor of that 5% increase to keep the lifeguards. Others say, you know, get rid of them. So it's, you know, it's a split issue. Somebody says they don't use the pool, never have in 8 years. Don't want their assessments to go up.
Bob, you decide.
There's no actually. There is no action.
5% is a huge increase in the assessment for this one expense. What is that actual 5% assessment?
$30.
And what?
$30 a house.
It's $30 a piece.
For the year.
Oh, it's nothing.
Well,
No, that's a lot.
but that's for some people,
$30?
for some people, that is.
Well, I know.
We can only speak for ourselves individually. We
You're right.
can't speak for everybody.
Well, you are tired, but I'm just saying.
I mean, because only a fraction of Belterra actually uses that, okay? So asking for every person in the development to pay $30 to cover a fraction of that percent, when the parents that come should be watching their kids, and Bob Lundy, who is experienced with life saving and has expertise, you know, has said that this is not, the lifeguards are not actually going to be the ones to save your children.
Right.
It's going to be the parents preventing the misbehavior that is going to be preventing the issues.
But to some extent, it's not just about use either, because the same thing could be said about the gym and everything else, because that's just how amenities work.
I know,
I mean, whether you
I
use it
know,
or
but
not.
when you look at like the online thing, I guarantee you that the people that were, most of the people that responded to this are the people
Yes.
that wanted it,
Agreed.
not the people that didn't want it.
Mhm. No, you make some good points. I'm just,
There's a question online of, are voluntary lifeguard a viable option? So volunteers in the community.
I would not like to think about, I have no idea of that.
A voluntary, like community volunteers.
Oh, yeah.
I don't have certification.
So it occurs to me, and this is probably a little wacko, but this one issue is an opportunity for this community to start changing how it feels about this community. There's that old term of it takes a community to raise a child. Some of the practical ways that happens is if I see somebody else's kid doing something dangerous, I'd still go over and talk to them and say, not yell at them, but say, what you're doing is scaring us, all of us. And I think people do rely too much on a lifeguard. And like you said, they're 16-year-old kids, can't be telling other 16-year-old kids to stop what you're doing. I grew up in Chicago on the beach, and the lifeguards there would literally grab you out of the water, and throw you to the ground, and tell you, don't ever do that again.
I approve of that.
Some people, it's interesting that you bring that up, that, people will go hold their, hopefully hold their neighbors accountable for their behavior. You would be surprised in the middle of the day how many times people in the summer come in and say, can you go out there and talk to that lady? She's not watching her kids, because they don't want to get into a potentially confrontational situation with their neighbor.
Right.
So then we go out there and pretend like we're doing a, just regular walk around, because we don't want it to be obvious.
Thank you.
Back when I was doing that, we had little megaphones. I wish I had $1 for every time I yelled out walk to some kid
Yeah.
running on the deck. I mean, it was endless. And none of the parents ever complained about me doing that. I've actually done it out here and no one complained either. So I think that if we had no lifeguards, community support would be supported to do that. So finally, I'll say that the lifeguards that we've had in the past haven't really given us the support we need. A couple of years ago, I hauled a kid out at Adult Swim because they didn't get out. And didn't know it, and the lifeguards had already adjourned the pool and there wasn't anybody watching. These kids that they hire for lifeguards are not that observant, and they don't yell out walk, and they don't catch these kids doing something, and they ignore it. So we're not getting what we pay for in the first place. And I believe there is a false sense of community or safety that's going on here. So I'll just leave it at that.
Someone's just asking if all of the feedback from residents on these issues, the comments be compiled and emailed out. So I told him I was keeping notes of everything that people are saying, and obviously we've got the notes sent in. So we can, I don't want to send out people's comments verbatim, but we can paraphrase, correct?
Sounds good. Any more discussion on the lifeguard staffing?
One comment.
If you come to the microphone, please.
Well, so we buy a fob to use the pool and the gym, and that's basically kind of a fee for the usage, like a usage fee. I would not mind increasing that rather than increasing everybody in the whole subdivision, having them pay more if they're not using it. Because the comment I'm seeing more than anything is, well, I don't use it, so why should I pay for that? So there's that. I would like to see some kind of enforcement, rule enforcement in the pool though. An Arnold Schwarzenegger kind of guy standing at the gate that kind of lets the message be that, hey, we're no nonsense on this. This could be risky. And just other than that, I wouldn't mind paying a little more for the fob.
Thank you. Anyone else?
And just to be clear, you're asking for a separate pool usage fee.
We pay it anyway. We have a fob to get into the pool.
No. If your fob is, you get the fob when you move in and it's activated based on your dues. And so everybody pays the same fees and everybody in Belterra has access to the pool. What I'm asking is, are you saying that to have a separate access to the pool and not to pay more for that?
That's not what I said.
So-
Well, that's what I'm trying to figure out.
So some people do pay for the fob if they've lost it, or we give one fob for free when, processing changes, but people will come in and purchase a second one potentially. So it sounds like she's had to purchase her fob. You've been here for quite a few years. Maybe you didn't have to purchase, yours. So, so not in,
I mean, and that's a one-time $35, or it used to be,
25, yeah.
25, whatever. That's not gonna cover a lifetime.
If there's no further discussion on the lifeguard staffing, we do have a couple of more subjects we'd like to bring up tonight. Okay, for a change of pace, let's talk about the pool. There's been an interest in extending the pool hours to be open later in the evenings, possibly as late as 11 p.m. Therefore, we're seeking feedback from residents before making any changes to the pool hours. And this is regardless of any decision that may or may not be made in the future regarding lifeguard staff.
Hours now are,
5 till 10.
Hold on here. It's like, wait, I had it. Here we go. Let me stop
If
here.
I'm not mistaken, the hours are 5 till 10 for swimming at your own risk, and there's been discussion of extending it to 11.
What happened to the gym hours?
Did something happen?
we voted to change.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm going to change them, but I have to change the signage, and I was waiting to change the signage when we decide what we're doing with the pool.
So we do bulk purchase
Yeah.
of signs instead
Yeah,
of
exactly.
go back. and
Did you want to make it 24 hours? I forgot.
No.
Change it, but
No, we closed it down from 2 to 4 a.m. every day so the cleaning crews can come in.
Okay.
Something like that.
almost 24 hours.
Almost, yeah.
Okay.
Have there ever been complaints from neighbors about noise?
I'm not aware of any of you.
I've never gotten a complaint about noise in the pool, not this
Well,
evening.
sometimes during the Marlins swim meets,
Yeah.
we're using a lot of speakers.
That's okay.
But yeah, nothing during routine pool hours that we're aware of. Anything on
Your message. I'd also like to see the comments that were sent in to the HOA. I cannot scroll down to read all the comments on the pages here. Well, yes, because there's a screen sharing. Yes, we'll include that as well.
All right,
There be any age limitations? Probably not.
for the pool being swim your own risk, same age limitations we have right now, you can't be in there if you're 13 or younger without.
So essentially between 10 and 11 at night, there could be a whole pile of 13-year-olds.
As long as they were with the parents.
Well, 14-year-olds.
16,
What I'm trying to say is there could be, yeah,
there could be a party. 16.
yeah.
I agree.
Right now, they could be there at 10 o'clock.
Could be.
Sorry, it's having technical difficulties.
Okay. And now we'll move on to Howard's topic. So the field that the HOA owns, the existing detailed baseball field limits the overall use of the space to just baseball. However, filling in the baselines and infield grass will allow this space to be utilized by groups playing other sports such as soccer and softball and reduce the overall maintenance cost for the amenity. Now, a few of us that have lived here for more than 4 years remember when that was not a baseball field, it was a true multi-use field with a diamond or with a backstop. So it could be used for baseball, it could also be used for football, Easter egg hunt, soccer. At one point in the past, the board decided to convert it to the baseball field we see now, because as I understand it, a group of people volunteered to switch it so that they could use it for more effective baseball practices. Unfortunately, that's limited the use of that field overall. And we are seeking resident whether it should stay a baseball field or we should convert it back to a multi-use field.
And just an asterisk that I think that brought this on my radar is as a baseball field, its quality is degrading. And so to maintain it in a safe way and prevent people from getting hurt while using it, that then builds on additional fund that we have to pay for to then keep it in appropriate shape. You know, base path and what and things like that, maybe hazards and which is not just do we like baseball or not? What are we signing up to maintain a safe and effective one?
Yeah, again, I think safety is key, and it hasn't been really well maintained as a baseball field, and it makes sense for it to be multi-use so that more people could take advantage of it and to improve the general safety of it by leveling it out. Because right now, it just doesn't look, it doesn't appear safe to me. You're the expert, but.
Well, I don't know who went out there and cut those base paths, but certainly with, 8, 9, 10-year-old kids, they don't need base paths. They just need grass to play on. And, it limits what you can do out there. And then as far as the safety goes, what happens is every time it rains, it's just dirt. It creates trenches and things like that. It's got to be maintained, and it's not. Only voluntary people will come in there and do that, volunteers, dads in particular, but they don't do that. So it's not a safe place for kids to run down a base path. It's got trenches and holes in it. I would rather see it all just leveled off. And right now, I haven't been out there, but I've heard there's a lot of ant piles and things like that, which happens. But it could be taken care of and made into a multi-use field for soccer, lacrosse, anything else that kids play, kickball, whatever it might be, and make it safe, make it, decrease the places or fix the places where there might be some potential uneven areas and level all that off. And if we have to plant or new grass, then we do it. I mean, to me, baseball, there's, how many kids on baseball? I mean, 9, you're gonna be out there, right? So if you've got flag football or soccer, you're gonna have twice that many kids out there, much many more kids, and you can create 2 or 3 fields out there for soccer, flag football, whatever it might be. And so I just think that if we convert that field and make it a multi-purpose, just like if you go to most places, like I was over at Reunion Ranch yesterday and High Point today, and those are multi-purpose fields. They don't have base paths cut out just for baseball. Now, I play baseball, but kids don't need that. They just need a field to play on, and that's what they need, a safe field. That's my opinion on that. Carry the torch for all kids and not just one area of sport.
I think it was converted to a baseball field with the best of intentions, without looking at what the long range implications of that. Right. Open the floor.
So I say I agree, I will agree. We have to walk up to the podium. I agree to very persuasive. Use the money you saved from the lifeguard.
Well, that's level that field off and make it playable for everyone.
Any comment on line motion?
Nope.
Nope. All right, well, that's the end of our.
Well, I have open forum.
Wait, no.
Well, I was gonna say, that's the end of our non-action items for this portion of the evening, so now it's open forum. Come on up.
I have 3 separate unrelated requests for the board.
Okay.
The first is, given the issues with water usage, that we look at broadening the xeriscaping that's allowed, because as I found out today that we're only allowed to have 30% xeriscaping in our entire property. There is no way that I can maintain a grass yard in my size lot. I have 20,000 square feet of yard. I'm on a large corner lot in Granite. I mean, we paid to have it started 17 years ago. We have been paying the tiered watering fees at the outrageous prices, but now we can only water between midnight and 6 a.m. That's 6 hours to cover 15 zones. That's 24 minutes of a sprinkler doing this.
Yeah.
Once a week. There's no way. I've had 3 different lawn companies out and say, what can I replant to make this work? And all of them have said no. There's nothing we can do.
So we formed a xeriscaping committee to review the policy at the last board meeting. We had our first meeting last month. We've got
One next week.
one next week. We've got 9 or
Wednesday.
10 people on the committee that are hard charging, doing a bunch of research to get this changed.
Because there's,
It's-
I'm just gonna have dead grass and what, I'm at the bottom of the hill, by the way. And so when the water runs, all the dirt runs
I'm-
into the
I'm
retaining
right there
wall.
with you. We're all on the same boat. Yeah.
So,
It's in the works.
okay, so I wanted to make my thoughts known on that. The other thing that I would like to request of the board is, a few years ago, we had a representative from Hayes County Sheriff's come and make a presentation about plate readers, license plate readers at the entrance and exits in Belterra. We have had a significant incidence of automobile theft going on. We're getting more urban. This is not a problem that's gonna go away. The technology, I believe, has been improving and hopefully going down in cost. I also remember during that presentation that the officer said there was a way for residents to opt out of their license plates numbers being held in the system if they were concerned about privacy things. I just think this is something it's time for the board to revisit. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but I really think it's time to look into it again.
We can certainly look into that again. I can tell you from being around, I wasn't on the board when that discussion was happening, but I was aware of it. The opposition in the community was overwhelming.
Well, it's changed over the years because now everybody has a ring camera. Everybody's got video cameras. Your license plate is being recorded 20 times when you ride down this granite lane.
And the problem that most people were saying is that those ring cameras aren't part of the network database.
Well, now there are network databases on 290. So your license plate is being recorded into network databases many more times than you know. And I think people are now starting to understand that their privacy is not as private as they thought. So maybe it might be a good thing to go ahead and use that information that other people are taking from you anyway to protect ourselves.
I think we can certainly look back into it and
Yeah.
we'll see what happens.
Again, that's all I can ask. The last thing is I'm very concerned with the Dripping Springs dark sky ordinances. There have been a lot of landscape lighting, and some of them I don't even call landscape, lighting installations in Belterra, and private residences that do not conform to this. I talked to the HOA, and the problem is the HOA can't, even though it's against HOA rules, because you have to have your landscape lighting approved by the architectural committee, which clearly people are not doing. They have to actually see the infraction. Well, they can't see the infraction because they only work 9 to 5. And so I'm asking the board to allow the HOA some latitude and flex time so that every couple of months or so, somebody can drive around at night to see the spotlights, and maybe rectify that so that we have a more natural environment and try to maintain the rules that we've already agreed to with our architectural landscaping. Is that something the
For
board?
clarification, are you referring to some of the homes who have like year-round down lighting or?
Not necessarily only those.
No.
I'm talking about people that have like spotlights that are motion sensitive, so that if you walk up, not even on the sidewalk in front of their house, but if you're across the street, these huge spotlights come on, or every time a car drives past, you've got this blinking spotlight coming on. There are other lighting, other than the down lighting from the eaves, not real thrilled with that, but
She showed me some pictures where somebody who's got like those landscape light, like the solar ones that you stick in the ground, it's like pathway lighting, that's what.
Yeah, and
But
it's,
they're huge and they're multicolored.
and they're flashing. Yes, multicolored.
I think we can discuss with CCMC what their contract stipulations are about that. But I would also suggest that CCMC isn't the only way that these items can be dealt with. I would say that much like a kid acting up at the pool that's not yours, the first thing that anybody in the community could do would be to talk to their neighbors, and failing a desire to do that.
Having done that once before.
I can continue, please.
Okay.
As a general statement, for CCMC to be able to take action on something, they need proof of it. They don't have to see it themselves. They can be provided with photographic proof.
I provided photographic proofs and addresses, but this was just in a one block range, and I'm talking, there's a lot of really harsh lighting that I think is interfering with the natural environment that I think needs to be looked at.
I'll also say that when a complaint is made, there will never be feedback given to the complainant. And notice, giving any resident a notice of violation is by nature a very private thing.
Oh, I'm
It's
not asking for any.
But it's also a very time-consuming issue.
Mhm.
And we are very acutely aware of personal feelings about their own property, and we very purposely take a slow and methodical and measured response to any infraction so that it doesn't look like we're immediately jumping to fining and things like that.
I can tell you that the one with the flashing colored lights has been up for more than a year, probably 2 years. And I guess I'm thinking, somebody's gonna come by and, say that maybe this isn't such a great idea. And so I finally brought it to the attention, and I was asked to say that, they really need to go out and see for themselves.
Well, to clarify, you asked me.
I asked you.
You asked me to send Darla out.
Yes.
At night, and I
Well-
said, we did just talk to the board about that, and you're welcome to bring it up to, yeah.
But I did provide you with photographic evidence
You
and,
showed me the photos, I actually emailed them to me too, though, so that.
okay,
Yeah.
I could email you,
Yeah.
but I
But you
didn't
left the
print out and I showed you.
Mhm.
And you said it would be nice if we could go out and see them at night. And so that's what I'm asking, is that it might be, more impactful for the HOA to actually see them for this for themselves. Because sometimes it's hard to get photographic evidence at night, especially on things that are flashing and going around. So that's something I would like you to consider. I'm not saying like every night or every month, just random, occasionally, a couple times a year. To make sure that, we have a safe environment, that we're following the night sky ordinances in Belterra.
I have a question for you. So that flashing light, is that disturbing you while you pass by, or is it
Yes.
so bright that you can't see the sky?
Both. The motion sensor lights are so bright that, and it's triggered by anybody walking their dog, not on the sidewalk in front of that particular property, but on the opposite side of the street from that particular property. It's triggered from every car that drives down that street. The house is at an intersection, so any car that is turning from where it's a T intersection is triggering that.
So it's not pointing up, it's pointing down.
It's pointing out. There's 2 spotlights that are coming off of a garage that are coming, it's really bright.
So this residence spotlight is also pointing up to the sky.
It's pointing outward. It's not pointing down, it's not pointing up, it's pointing out.
Pretty much everything is triggering it.
That's,
And every,
sounds like a very inefficient system to,
yeah, because it's not going to deter anybody because it's just flashing constantly.
And I'm curious, how would this be a violation of HOA?
Because any light installations are supposed to be reviewed by the architectural modification
Okay,
committee.
so it's not some dark sky ordinance, it's.
Well, it is, the dark sky ordinance is not the association's ordinance to uphold, but what we would approach it is from an unapproved modification
Okay.
standpoint. And then they would be required to submit their installation, and then the architectural modification committee would then review it for conformance with our governing documents.
And I believe that our governing documents,
I think it references dark sky.
It references
Knowledge
dark
of
sky.
science, yeah.
so,
Then what happens if AMC approves it and then they keep using it?
then I'm out of luck, but I think if they saw it, they wouldn't approve it.
I see.
I mean, I guess it could be reported to Dripping Springs, but I don't know what their jurisdiction is with that. I know that they actually, when Belterra Village was built, there was a lot of hue and cry, and the city of Dripping Springs got involved in that to enforce the dark sky ordinances with their lighting. So it's possible that might happen.
I see.
But I think it would be more realistic to just follow the rules that were set forth by the HOA in Belterra and take that step first.
Yeah, I was like just curious if we have the jurisdiction to
Yes.
enforce dark sky as an HOA.
I don't believe we have the jurisdiction to enforce dark sky, but we can enforce our own CCNRs as they apply.
And you're right, this is an unusual circumstance because in situations like this in communities that were a part of the city, I would contact the city and there would be a dual enforcement, approach where the code enforcement with the city would come out, but I'm not sure that Dripping Springs does that out here. But
We're not part of Dripping Springs, how will they come out here?
So we are part of the Dripping Springs ETJ, and as being part of the ETJ, certain ordinances apply to us in the dark sky as well.
But
I'm just not sure that they have.
Extra taxation jurisdiction. Essentially, we're an unannexed area that's considered adjacent to and lightly controlled by Dripping Springs. Basically, it's a really handy designation that keeps the city of Austin from annexing us. So we want to be.
And allows us to pay our property taxes to Dripping Springs to their schools.
Yes.
So, but those were my three concerns, so. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dripping Springs,
No,
we're connected somehow.
yeah, we're an extra taxation jurisdiction. We are unannexed property of Dripping Springs, for lack of a better explanation. When Belterra Village came in, the Dripping Springs city did do full annexation of Belterra Village. They typically don't do full annexation of residential areas because the increase in property taxes that they'll get doesn't offset the cost of providing services to those areas.
Anyone else?
I live on Lexington Drive, and as you might know, this is one of those streets that will be greatly affected by the Highway 290 extension. So I'm here to talk to you a little bit about this and to see kind of in which way kind of some of you or might help with dealing with the situation or have any advice for how we as residents can deal with the situation. One of the biggest challenges that I see right now is that a lot of people not really in Belterra truly aware of what's happening. And I would like to maybe brainstorm with you, if anything, to how we can reach them, and truly explain to them what's happening, that it is a 5-lane highway that we're about to get in our backyard. Just kind of like an open comment if anybody has something to suggest on this topic.
Well, and I was actually gonna bring this up too, more as a resident, not in my capacity as board member. And Marcia has a couple of schematic images to share with everybody as well.
Do you want to play the video?
Sure.
Did you respond to the survey that was, to the,
Absolutely. Yeah, I have to say, I was the one who's doing the work and the work, probably we can have. Yeah, I spend a good amount of time trying to share that with residents, but I only covered maybe 100 or 150 houses and there are 2,000 of them.
Yes.
So I was just trying to find a way, how can we bring that to everybody?
Trish contacted me earlier to say, can we include some of this information? Because we want to, spread the word in kind of a nonpartisan way on it, just to let people know, and then everyone can make their own, provide their own feedback. So Trish asked me to share. Roll the tape.
Central Texas roads still doesn't need for infrastructure specifically. I say that many projects taking years to be completed, that were too early to start planning for the next one. Here to discuss a proposed expansion of US 290 is Brad with the Texas Department of Transportation. Brad, thank you for joining us.
Hi, Rebecca.
So TxDOT is thinking about widening 290 between Southwest Austin and Dripping Springs. There's already a lot of work going on near the Wyatt at Oak Hill. What should people know about this proposal? Because it's just beyond that point, correct?
Right, it would meet up with the Oak Hill Parkway project there in Southwest Austin. This is a desirable place to live, as you know, a lot of people moving out there. We've seen substantial development over the last several years, and that means more traffic on the roadways. 290 has become crowded. Something we've heard from people who live out there making the community is that there's congestion. They also have some safety concerns out there. We've got about 31,000 vehicles on average traveling 290 in this area every day. And that number is expected to increase by 45% in 2045. So safety enhancements and mobility improvements are needed here.
Now, the project is in a study and design phase right now, still very early. What needs to happen before, breaking ground?
Right, there's a long way to go before we ever break ground on this project. This is a community-driven project, Rebecca. We went out to the public back in 2019 with 2 open houses, blank slate, and we said, what are your concerns? What are your desires? What do you want 290 to look like? We took that public feedback and we did our engineering studies, and now we're showing our first proposal. So what we're doing with this meeting, both virtually and we'll have the rescheduled in-person meeting on January 30th, was have folks come out, take a look at this, and tell us what you think. That public feedback is very important. As I said, we've got this meeting, we'll probably have another one about midsummer or something like that, and we'll get more public feedback and then go back to the engineering phase.
You're going to be getting a lot of public feedback. If the public does oppose this plan, what alternatives are being considered?
Well, we right now are looking at this plan is the best plan we think will work for the community and the corridor over there. So this is a 6-lane divided highway with frontage roads. That would take away the traffic signals along US 290. And that's one of the big concerns that we've heard is people traveling at highway speeds and then stopping at a traffic light. And in some cases, people run those traffic lights or someone's pulling out and they don't see a car coming and we get a T-bone crash. So the severe crashes were a concern to the community. Removing those traffic signals is one way to solve that problem. And in order to accomplish our goals, we believe we need to add capacity to the main lanes. And we also need to add those frontage roads so that we can put the local traffic there on the frontage roads. We'll take that public feedback with a lot of support for changes out there on 290. The public came to us with some of their concerns. And so we know that there's also going to be some folks who are going to have concerns about this project. We'll take all of that into consideration as we move forward through the process. But no decisions have been made. Nothing is final, and we're a long way from turning over on this.
And once again, if people would like to learn more, there is a public meeting on January 30th, correct? What time?
That's going to be from 6 to 8 p.m. and that will be at the Dripping Springs Event Center. So we encourage you to go online right now at flex.gov, take a look at the materials there. And if you want to talk to us in person, we will have plenty of folks out there to address any concerns, answer questions, take your input of things you'd like to see out there at that in-person meeting.
All right, Brad Wheelis with TechDOT. Thank you so much for sharing your time and perspective with us tonight.
Thank you, Rebecca.
That's a stretch for him to say address any concerns.
So, I attended the meeting and it was sort of a non-meeting because it was just schematics on the tables. And if you had questions or concerns, then you could write them on a Post-it note and put it on the table. Now, there were some TechDOT employees that you could speak with there and they did have some, nice little boards that they were displaying with, generic information. But one of the things that this gentleman said was that this is community driven. The main factors are access and safety. And those are main concerns. And I think everybody could probably agree with that because, if you try to make a left-hand turn on 290 to go across traffic, you're taking your life in your hands. It's scary. And there's 40,000 permits I just heard the other day that have already been approved for new builds in the Dripping Springs area. So, change, growth is inevitable. While this may be something that the community wants and needs, as far as modifications to 290, I don't think that what's proposed, this is just my opinion, what's proposed is good for this community because what's proposed does less to serve the community, the local residents, than it does for commerce, for truckers, because that's the whole point of not having lights and having a 70-mile-per-hour speed limit.
Yeah.
And there's gonna be more lanes that are smaller, they're gonna be more narrow. And there's something, a term that I just heard the other day, and I don't know if I'm gonna remember it now. It's called, traffic inducement. I think it's traffic inducement. So it's kind of like the premise, if you build it, they will come. If you make it easier for people to do something, more people will do that. More people will use those roads, whether they live here or not. There will be more traffic. It can also have the converse effect of being safe, and it can be less safe. We can have extended emergency response times, and Bob could probably speak to this better than I, because of the way the roads are going to be designed, and because not the main highway is not going to be our main source of access around the community. It's going to be the perimeter roads. So you're going to have 15 lanes across near Belterra, I think, and then you're going to have 30-foot or 28-foot,
Sound wall.
no,
Flyovers.
at Belterra, at,
Sawyer Ranch.
at Sawyer Ranch, and at HEB, Nettie Brown. And it's going to, and Texas Department of Transportation admits this, it's not just gonna look like I-35, it's gonna be more expansive than I-35. I think that it's probably going to maybe decimate our property values. It's certainly gonna decimate Dripping Springs and this area. You know, think of I-183, what it looks like over there. If you like the 183 area, I'm talking about North Austin, I think that's what this area will look like, because you're gonna have a lot of strip centers that are gonna go up, and, I mean, forget the small town feel, forget the dark sky, forget that, because, again, this is not geared towards the residents. So, there's a couple of schematics on here to show, and these are, you know, from TxDOT. The one above, the one on the right-hand corner, the top right-hand corner, that's in front of Belterra Drive. And the picture below it, the area below it, that's an example of what this is gonna look like, but that's actually what they did in Dallas. So, but that gives you a visual of what we're talking about here. This is not a simple little, you know, expanding the roads. This is a major overhaul of the highways right now, and it's not for the good. So what can we do as residents? Well, we have to raise awareness. I mean, there are some people I know that are in favor of this. They think that, you know, it's going to be better for access and safety, and that it's going to increase property values because it's going to make it easier for people to get here. I disagree. I think that's, there's a double-edged sword there, but I think it's going to be more harmful than not to mention noise pollution, not to mention the Lexington area, Belterra, is going to be hurt the hardest in all of this. I think there's 14 homes in the Polo Club that are going to be affected. Somebody said the other day that, you know, they're worth about $2 million each. They're taking that. Although, you know, this gets political because there's some areas, like Fuse, the owner of Fuse is a developer, so they're not touching that because, you know, politics comes into play. So raising awareness is really key for all of this. Next week, there's going to be a meeting at the Dripping Springs City Council. There was just a meeting this week, was it Monday? Monday, which we attended. And it got very heated, and it was heated because I think people were told that they were going to be able to speak at the meeting, and one of the commissioners shut that down and said, no, that's not happening. And there was a lot of people there who wanted to voice their concerns who weren't able to. I was really surprised at the reaction of the Dripping Springs Council. As a result of that meeting, they're having another meeting next week on March 5th at 6 p.m. and there will be public comment. So I would suggest, if you can, to attend that meeting, get there a little bit early, because if you want to comment, you have to get on the list, and, you'll just have a couple of minutes to speak. Also, contact TxDOT, and do we have an email up there? Contact TxDOT and ask for an actual Q&A meeting for all of the community, so that you can ask questions, get feedback. But part of the benefit of that is residents can hear what other people are asking. Residents can hear what other people, may have talked to somebody, everybody has different information about this. So we can all, feed on that too. Did you find it?
What's that? The information on the.
Oh, us290@gmail.com is to email requesting the Q&A for the community before May 9th. And
Patricia, you said, 6:30 versus 6 o'clock this year.
I said 6:30, yes, you're right. Thank you for correcting me. Yes, at 6 p.m. on March 5th.
That's election day, don't forget to vote.
Yes, oh, please vote. And tomorrow is the last day of early voting, so that makes it even easier. And then there's another resource too. This website just went up earlier this week. It's called savedrippingsprings.org. And that's going to be, a big resource, I think, for the community too. And we're trying to get, other communities involved so that we can, collectively talk to TxDOT about modifying its plans and not going forward with this proposal. We're not saying don't do anything, because something is needed, but this is not it. This is beyond the scope of what this community needs. While there might have been an outcry from the community for access and safety, this is more for commerce. And some people think, oh, this is just a done deal, change is inevitable, there's nothing we can do. I don't believe that. I think, collectively, people can make a big difference. Collectively, we can vote, we can change things with votes. We can vote the people out of office in Dripping Springs if they don't listen to us. I did not like what I saw the other day. That was my first meeting there, and it was very disappointing. This is the state of the world we live in, sadly, but it doesn't have to be like that. So
I don't think we have any effect on Houston Dripping Springs City Council. No.
you're right, as far as we can't vote for them, but I think we can have an effect.
I will say Travis, Travis guy, the guy with the beard.
Travis Crow.
Go ahead, yeah.
He was, I spoke to him afterwards, and
Was he more reasonable than in the
He
meeting?
was
Because he was
reasonable.
pretty rude.
he was, I agree with you, and, he said, we've been trying to let people know. I said, how do you let people know? He said, well, you can just look at our website. I said, do you know how many competing things there are in anyone's life right now for looking at their website? And you need to use more social media and marketing to let people know what's going on. I'll be happy to meet you for coffee anytime you want, It's like,
I was actually really disappointed with
I
him.
was too.
So,
I've seen a proposal for a southern loop. So, but it comes after Belterra. So what would you propose doing between Oak Hill and where they propose that southern loop?
Well, for one, I wouldn't want us to have to drive on the feeder roads to access everything. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I understand that, but I'm saying, how would you do that how would you change what they're doing?
Well, instead of there being an elevated road, they could go down.
Under?
Correct.
I think that's a wonderful idea.
Correct. And that also, I think, would help with the noise.
Yeah.
The number of lanes would be less.
Right. And right now, the lanes are gonna be more narrow. I mean, I don't know if you've ever driven down Slaughter Lane, for example, but it's scary. Those lanes, I mean, because they created bike lanes there. I used to live on Slaughter years ago. And there was just an accident over there, and I think partly because it's just, yeah, and it's gonna be like that on a big highway.
Does
So
Texas
that's
have,
one thing.
do they have a history of listening to public feedback, or do they have an obligation to respond?
It's,
Delineation there.
yeah,
Is there any obligation?
it's some formality to have, solicit public input. But, yes, there are some communities that have been successful. I wouldn't say that it happens a majority of the time, but it's possible.
I mean, but they don't have an obligation, they just have to check some box saying, hey, we received public comments, thank you for the feedback, you're gonna do it anyway.
Oak Hill
Can they
put
do-
off the Oak Hill Y expansion for more than 20 years.
Well, that had more to do with environmental issues too.
I heard that in Oak Hill, originally it was overpass vehicles, but they told them they got the underpass.
That is true.
For the, like, your original question, right, we went knock on doors, how do you get people's attention, how do you spread awareness? I think there are opportunities to, one, the communication meetings, class, spread awareness, things like Thursday, the Easter egg hunt, any place we have vendors and people setting up tables at the farmers markets. If you have people who are passionate about this and willing to staff a table, having venues to be able to grab people's attention and catch them in whatever lifestyle events they're participating in and share that information and be available, those are all things we can support as the board and provide access to that space so that you have a chance to grab people and share this information so that they can share their opinions, or as, if they're aligned with you, then you can begin to have that mass that's communicated together. So obviously not everybody reads about their plans, and not everybody reads but any lifestyle event that this, probably don't want people canvassing in the middle of the pool while they're swimming. That's fun, but is, well, if your lifeguard while you're swimming, maybe that's fine. But that's fine. But, if people are passionate and willing to do those things, making access to those resources and take whatever, we have avenues to support.
Yeah, and it would have to be a full-blown campaign, just like somebody's running for office, yard signs, T-shirts, fundraising.
Like the students using, people have been trying to do stuff.
Exactly, yeah, on Fitzhugh Road. If anybody is interested, I did not make these, but I got them at the Dripping Springs City Council meeting the other day. I have some little flyers, we have information with some people's contact information, so if you're interested, please take one.
Do you know anything about the flagging that's out there? Is that
flaggings.
is that the dimensions that it's gonna cover? You seen the pink flagging? Did they talk about that at all?
They did not, no, there was a person from TxDOT, poor guy, he was a young guy, and I think he was just overwhelmed by everything. He was very nice. He admitted there were some good points that were made. They seem to be amenable to a possible Q&A before May 1st. So that's why I think, the more people that contact TxDOT at the email address, the better. I don't think, and I could be wrong, but I'd be surprised if that has anything to do with the expansion project, because this is not a funded project yet. So we're not talking about this is gonna start in 2 years or 3 years. I mean, some people say that that's not my problem, I won't be here by then, that's like, 2030. Okay, maybe, but I wouldn't count on that either. And just the fact that we know that this is happening, I think it's still gonna affect your property values, even if it's in the future, because who wants to move here and then live through all the construction like the Y, but even here, and then have this monstrosity of a road here. So, whether the construction is starting now or in 10 years from now, it's going to affect our values, which will also in turn affect the tax base of Hayes County. Because if the values go down, it.
I think another push for this is that, you know, if you guys know, but the east-west thoroughfare is right here for trucking industry.
Correct.
Don't go through San Antonio.
Correct. That's what this is really.
That's all it's about.
That's 100%. It's not for the community. That's why I think they need to go back to the drawing board. Because this should not just be a thoroughfare for the trucks. And I'm gonna say something that's really controversial. A lot of people might not like, but Austin is growing a lot. And I've seen the projections out to 2040 and it's not nice. And no matter how many roads we build, it's not gonna be able to deal with all of the traffic and all of the cars. So Austin notoriously has been behind the times in planning. And I'm just picking on Austin because that's where I live and, you know, I grew up here, other areas too. But at some point, we are going to have to think about other modes of transportation like high-speed rail. And I'm not saying that people have to get rid of their cars, but this is just, you know, when we're looking at the future and we're being realistic, something has to change. You go to Europe and it's easy to travel, you know, on a train. It's economical. It's efficient. I don't know why. Well, I do know why we don't.
This is why I think it's the same with the bus to come as far as the closest little bus stop is at ACC.
Right.
Okay, so if you can't get a bus, there's no way you're gonna get a train, because I've sat on a couple discussions trying to get buses between Dripping Springs and ACC, because we want kids to be able to attend there. And that was 10 years ago.
Yeah, no, I don't doubt it. I mean, anyway, that's just my 2 cents. That's just a sidebar, but that's what they're gonna have to look at some point, because there's no amount of roads that are gonna be able to absorb all of the people that are moving here and all of the cars.
I would advise people that are going out to advocate about doing something about the roads to present an alternate. And not just say.
Oh, absolutely.
I know, so like you said, the underpasses, that's a great idea.
No,
But if you go and talk to people, instead of just saying, did you hear about this horrible thing? Just say, look at this horrible thing. Wouldn't it be better if we did this other thing? It would be so much nicer.
you are 1000% correct, because you can't just say, oh, I don't like that. Don't do that here. There has to be an alternative. You have to have an alternative solution. And it can't just be based upon, oh, these are my fears and these are my concerns. It has to be based upon empirical data. It has to be based upon facts, not just because, oh, I don't want this, not in my community.
And by the way, if you do an underpass, you're gonna have even more construction than an overpass.
Yeah, oh, and it costs more too.
Yeah.
Anyway,
And then the water concerns.
I'm sorry?
And then there's the water.
No water.
Oh, the water, well, we're already at stage 3 and, you know, it's just February. And I don't know where the water is gonna come from for all of these big communities and I don't know why I did this to myself. I was in a conversation, you know, on next door with somebody who was advocating for this and you know, they were saying, oh, well, you know, you could just sell your house, make a bunch of money and move away. And that, you know, like water is not an issue, but water is an issue everywhere. We have 40,000 additional permits existing. That's already in the pipe. That's not even, you know, this is already planned. I don't know where the water is going to come from for all of that when we're at stage 3 right now. And it is a bit hypocritical of me to say, oh, you know, these big communities, you need to stop building, because I live in we all live in an enormous community. We live in Belterra has 2,000 homes, but, you know, there was just a story the other day about Georgetown is expected to run out of water in 6 years. Oh, dear. They're going to run out of water in 6 years. I don't think we're far behind. And, you know, we just had a record-breaking summer last year of 100-degree temperatures. And I think that's, you know, the norm of what's to come. That's not an anomaly. So, you know, we have to think and do things different.
Do you realize that the state of Texas and neighboring towns actually sell our water south of the border? I have friends that work in Corpus Christi at water processing that run the pipes down there. And so we are exporting our water.
Well,
We are also exporting our water to Louisiana, to the rice fields. Maybe we should stop exporting our water.
I agree. This has also been a big issue, and I don't want to, I'm not, I have to be careful saying this, because there's legislation that's been passed about it. There's also been concerns, the Government Accountability Office has expressed concerns over food insecurity, for example, in national security, because foreign countries are buying land, and they're doing this in Arizona. There was it the Saudis, I think, who bought a bunch of land, and they're extracting water and resources and taking it. And I'll tell you, this is my prediction, in the not too far off future, water is a very precious resource, and there's gonna be wars, and a lot of people are gonna die because of water, because it's gonna be more and more in scarce supply, and it's gonna affect a lot of countries.
If I may.
Yes, sorry, I
to
digress.
interrupt. Let's, as educational and entertaining as this is, let's bring this back down to a more Belterra centric discussion.
Yes.
We have a question online, excellent.
Fine. What is the status of the pickleball courts at the?
Oh, I
recreation
should-
center?
Pickleball.
I said pickleball. What are they? Pickleball?
Oh, there you go.
I don't know anything about it either. No, I said great question. I will answer it next. So the plans for the pickleball court are currently being reviewed by WCID 1 because this piece of property sits in WCID 1. And they have to review design development and make sure they are looking at things like impervious cover and, erosion, drainage, all that jazz. So we have to get approval from them before we can proceed. But the contractor has been given the okay to go ahead and start on the renovation to the existing court. So it doesn't affect the expansion with the additional pickleball court. So we're just gave them the okay on the lines and the colors and all that. So it is in progress. It's not moving as fast as I would have liked it, but the WCID 1 is they're very supportive of it. And so I'll be going to their next meeting to kind of get an update on that project.
It's moving forward.
It is moving forward.
Quicker than it has been in recent years.
Well,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. So it is our absolute hope, dream for everyone to be out there thinking along, playing pickleball very soon. How many courts? Great question, Gus. There will be one dedicated, that's part of, as long as it's approved by WCID 1, the extension will be a standalone pickleball court, but the existing basketball court will then, the refinishing of it will make it a multi-use court of basketball, volleyball, and a pickleball. Yes, there will be a reservation system set up so that we know who's using it and when, and we will get there.
So we have an idea of the construction plan, and how long things will need to be closed, and like when the pickleball court and construction of the basketball court have to be shut down.
Yes, when they're doing the pickleball court, the basketball court will have to be closed, safety reasons. TBD, because I also, now that the painting and wood staining and the refinishing of the pool was approved this evening. Tomorrow, I've got to go through and look at dates and coordinate the schedule because I don't want those vendors tripping over each other. And I think at some point in the next few months, I'm also going to have, the Sport Court of Austin out here doing stuff. So I have to be very, very purposeful in that scheduling. So more information to come. So please pay attention to your Belterra blast about when things are closed. So you don't walk in here and end up with stuff in my bucket of paint or something.
Any other comment?
When are the next meetings?
So the next regularly scheduled board meeting is April 25th. That is the second quarter official meeting. You can very easily remember that date for my wedding anniversary. So April 25th here in this room. Thank you guys. Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah.
Anything?
There aren't any more after.
There will be, yeah, all the dates are on the website. I don't have all the rest of it. The board officially meets quarterly in these meetings. So it's April and then 3 months from there. So have you received the Belterra blast? Okay, perfect. So just, yeah, you can have those dates.
All right, any other comments online?
No other comments online? I think Steve's got one more thing.
Steve?
Yeah, I'll make it fast, because it's getting late.
We'll turn to a.
As we all know, on Monday, April 8th, we have an unusual solar event that's pretty rare. And I was going to recommend to the board that they offer to have people come down to the field here, set up their telescopes, so that those of us who don't have telescopes can see the eclipse from a different point
So
of view.
Byron's working with the school
And
on something super duper exciting.
just to have a gathering of people that have better equipment and so on. I mean, I've got a telephoto lens, but I wouldn't mind looking through a big telescope.
Not a good idea.
So more people get involved, come down and enjoy it, because it's very rare.
I'll ask Byron about the telescope part. Like I said, he's planning something with the school to have a solar eclipse party basically here.
Oh, great.
Yeah, it's on. And I mentioned to him also, since it's
People
April,
have telescopes.
since it's April the 8th, I also told him to make sure to tease it earlier than just sending out the April calendar, because that won't go until the end of March. So about mid-March, he's gonna start teasing something so people can put it on their calendars.
And it starts about 12:30, so it's midday, it's very easy.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Would like to caution people against looking at directly at the sun with the telescope.
Yeah, filter.
Without the appropriate filters.
Yeah, gotta have
Yes.
on there. Yeah, good point. And that's what Byron and actually all the lifestyle directors in the Austin area, they're all putting their heads together, trying to find a reputable source for glasses, because they've heard the ones you can buy on Amazon are not sufficient.
Contact me.
Okay, cool.
So is, Dripping Springs closing their schools for the eclipse?
They are, and yeah, they've had that on their calendar, they've all year.
Any other public comments?
Nobody will school.
All right.
Thank you guys for
Not going
coming.
to officially call this closed because we're not in
You're not in
an official meeting right now.
I'm gonna stop recording.